Well, guys, a wee quick unaccepted broadcast with Davy. I've just been listening to Lunchtime Live on the BBC, and according to the BBC, there is no, and Professor Michael Keatings, the Emeritus Professor of Politics at Aberdeen University, there is no such thing as a democratic mandate. Apparently no such thing exists. We can't have a mandate to have independence because there is no such thing as a democratic mandate, according to him. My understanding of how politics works is political parties put up candidates running on a manifesto. We, the public, vote on that manifesto, and we, the public, give the winning political party the public's democratic mandate to enact that manifesto or manifesto pledges. So to listen to the BBC, get a professor from Aberdeen University, Uniontown, to tell us that there is no such thing as a democratic mandate is an absolute outrage. How democracy works is quite bloody simple. If this guy's a professor of politics, there's something fundamentally wrong with his education. Something fundamentally wrong. Now, as to the Constitution being reserved, which was the other thing he was talking pish about, he tells us there's no Constitution, but it's reserved. Does anybody but Davy get the fucking hypocrisy in this? We have reserved this non-existent thing. Is it just me that's fucking daft? It doesn't exist to tell us. There's no written Constitution to tell us. But we've reserved it anyway. So we've had an emeritus professor called Michael Keatings of Aberdeen University. Emeritus professor, that means they're retired. On the BBC to tell us there's no such thing as a democratic mandate. There is no constitution, but it's reserved. Do you know when you're being fucking gaslit, folks? That's what you call being gaslit. By fuck, the unionists are running scared that they know. I don't even believe I'm living here. Am I an alternative reality? So, there's no such thing, according to this professor of politics, there's no such thing as a democratic mandate, and there's no constitution, but it's reserved. Am I the only guy that sees this stuff? Wow. I just had to point that out, folks. You can go back onto BBC Scotland and find the segment with Professor Keatings, where he talks about no such thing as a democratic mandate, and the Constitution's no written down, so it's no real, but it's reserved. Am I the only person that sees this stuff? I don't believe what I've just heard. So listen to it again. And we've just been told there's no such thing as a democratic mandate. We were also compared to Catalonia, by the way. But the UK isn't, as everybody's claiming, a unitary state. According to the United Nations, the UK is a state made up of 3 nations, or 2 nations or province. It's a union. There is a treaty of union. There are articles of union. In fact, I think there's 28 of them, if I remember right. But this wee book will tell me. Thanks very much to Random Scottish History. And this wee book will tell me how we managed to lose our parliament and who was involved in the weeds. But what Davy does understand is how politics works. Political parties put up candidates running on a manifesto. We vote for the political parties. The political party that wins the majority gets to enact that manifesto on a democratic mandate from the majority of the voters. As to the Constitution being reserved, I've just had a professor of politics on the radio tell me that the Constitution doesn't exist. It's just a set of conventions that are lying about somewhere. And that that non-existent Constitution is reserved. Is it only me that sees this stuff as gaslighting? This is pure propaganda. Pure propaganda. Anyway, I had to get out of my chest, folks. Share this around, because if people don't see what's being pumped into their ears and their eyes on this fucking Pravda that we call the BBC, then there's a big problem there. And I mean that. But for a professor of politics to be telling us that there's no such thing as a democratic mandate is mental. For a professor of a university to be telling us that a non-existent thing can be reserved is fucking nuts. I mean nuts. It doesn't exist, but we're going to reserve it anyway. That's like saying Davy owns the moon. Or Davy owns the universe. You know, it's all a pish. Just made up. Wow. So we're being led to believe that something that doesn't exist could be reserved. We're also being led to believe that it doesn't matter how we vote, there's no mandate. No matter what the political parties put in their manifestos, there's no such thing as a democratic mandate, apparently. Anyway, folks, I'll leave that with you. If you find this interesting, share it around. But go back to the BBC and listen to Mr. James Keating, Professor James Keating. I don't know why he's a professor of politics, because he obviously doesn't know how it fucking works. Bye now.